Okay, welcome to our talk today around empowering healthcare analytics, a unified Lakehouse approach with Databricks. I'm Mike Dobing, I'm a specialist architect at Databricks, and my colleague here is Bianca from BGSS, and we'll talk more around a POC we delivered recently with the NHS in the UK around a rather unique project. So this was delivered in conjunction with Databricks, with myself as a technical lead. We're now aligned to the NHS as lead architect, and Bianca and the BGSS team, which are now part of CGI as the delivery partner for its POC. And its core concept is, as said on screen there, is a proof of concept into the creation of a single virtual data layer, unified different clouds in Azure and AWS across a complex data estate, and integrated with the Palantir Foundry data platform. Okay? And we work closely with the NHS on this, and also with Palantir themselves in terms of the delivery. So in terms of agenda today, first of all, I'll do a bit of background around what was the pain point we're trying to solve, what was the use case we're trying to work through against there. I'll talk around the target architecture that we kind of designed upon late last year, between September and November last year, based on the challenges that the NHS gave us. And I'll hand over to Bianca, who'll talk around the POC phase that we delivered for phase one. And there are a few kind of challenges and things we had to deal with in terms of CrossCloud integration, data sharing, data federation, governance, and various other things that Bianca will touch upon, and also around the final solution architecture that completed phase one. Then I'll pick up and I'll talk around where we are right now in terms of moving forward to production. So we're in that phase now, and then there's some further kind of steps being taken on there. And I'll also touch upon the Databricks and Palantir partnership, which some people may have seen in recent weeks, where we're working very closely together on projects. And that's a key facet of this one, because when we first started on this project, the Databricks is well embedded in the NHS. People familiar with the NHS in the UK? I was making a blanket assumption there, but it's a large public service healthcare provider in the UK. Databricks is embedded across there in many places around trusted research environments, data processing services, and others. But also Palantir was there as part of a federated data platform. So it could have easily been a competitive scenario with two kind of analytical companies, but we created a joint, better together architecture, which now forms the bedrock of our official architecture, which I'll touch upon as we go through. And also touch upon any Q&A at the end. But if we run out of time, just please call us outside. It's all good. So in terms of the delivery team from our side, so myself, Mike Dobing, like I said, I'm a specialist architect now in data warehousing and BI, but at the time I was aligned to the NHS as their lead architect. And Bianca, do you want to say?
I'm a service data lead at BGSS, focusing on Databricks, and today I'm representing the BGSS team, now that is part of the CGI. Why the partnership? Because together our team specialize in delivering high quality Databricks expertise. We focus on creating accelerators, having already go-to-market solutions to deploy. So basically we focus on delivering faster value for our clients.
Thank you. So a bit of background now, and this is a bit wordy, so I'll try to paraphrase. But the healthcare provider, and it's the NHS. We weren't sure if we could use the term NHS until recently. So it's the NHS in the UK, but they're currently delivering a highly impactful data platform called the Federated Data Platform in the UK. And it's designed to integrate and accelerate use cases designed around patient efficiency, patient care, and supply chain in the NHS. It's a far-reaching, highly impactful program. The FDP itself is built on the Palantir analytics platform, and the challenge the NHS had was around how do they integrate their very large and sprawling data estate across multiple clouds, across multiple services, into a single pane of glass that can integrate with Palantir. What they didn't want to do is create another set of data silos, another set of data processing pipelines, integrations, and extra risk to deliver this platform itself. So as Databricks was heavily involved and embedded within the NHS on both their organizations, which I'll come to shortly, we were primed to kind of create that bridge between their existing estate and their FDP estate. So I'll use the term FDP and Palantir interchangeably, but it's the same thing. So with that, and so before I go any further, the analogy I like to think about as we go through this is kind of a restaurant analogy. So Databricks is at the NHS already involved in data collection services, data processing services, secure research environments. So we adopted the role kind of the back-end kitchen, if you will, handling kind of raw ingestion, transformation, and processing, and handing over the ready-made meals to the FDP to serve up to analysts for consumption in dashboards and reporting, machine learning endpoints, and so forth. So we kind of presented a series of workshops with Palantir and NHS, a plan to do this, and with that, a working team was formed with Databricks, BJSS, Palantir, and NHS to deliver the virtualized data layer. And the term itself has gone through a bit of an evolution. It was called the single data lake to begin with, but we didn't like the connotations, the customer didn't like the legacy connotations of lake, so it became virtual data lake, and finally virtual data layer. So at its core, just think of the virtual data layer as a cross-cloud implementation of Databricks unified by Unity Catalog using tools like Delta sharing and Lakehouse Federation. So in terms of the POC architecture, so the actual requirements are much longer than this, but these are the kind of the summary points that we had to hit as part of this first POC that happened. Okay. The primary one is that analytical data needs to be served into the FDP, into Palantir Foundry, from the source systems in Azure and AWS. Like I said, the data stored from two platforms primarily. On AWS, it was called the CDP, the Common Data Platform, and there's a picture shortly around this one. And on the Azure side, something called the UDAL, the Universal Data Access Layer. And that is an analytical platform comprised of Synapse dedicated pools, serverless Synapse, a Parquet-based Delta Lake, and supporting tools like SQL marts, hosting analytical sandpits and sandboxes. So a plethora of systems on both sides. On the CDP side, it's primarily Databricks. Data duplication must be kept to 0 or at a minimum, and governance must be managed in one place, which is where Unity Catalog came in as a key thing around here. And we need to ensure that integration and query performance was sufficient for the analysts in the FDP to read the data from our platform as it came through. And we need to integrate across two clouds to create a single access point. So this is the output of our first main session in November 2024. And this is kind of the take-home picture from our initial design. On the left-hand side, you will see the CDP, the Common Data Platform, primarily a Databricks instance with various versions of Databricks going from PVC, for those who know of PVC, right through to modern Databricks. And it's a mix of locally processed data on that platform. On the right-hand side, we have the Azure side on UDAL. So this is, Azure Data Services, a mix of Azure Databricks, Synapse serverless pools, Synapse dedicated pools, Parquet-based Delta Lake, and other supporting services as well. We made the decision in terms of integration to serve one access point from Unity Catalog to the FDP. So you can see in the top left-hand side there, the FDP, single analytic environment, and a connection there called virtual tables, which Bianca will go into shortly. But that allows a federated virtual connection into Databricks. The challenge we had to solve is, while Palantir can easily connect to all those sources in there, it would create lots of extra data silos, extra connections, extra pipelines, which we wanted to avoid. So what we did, we coined an approach where we'd use, for the data lake kind of access there, using managed Delta Share and private exchange. So for those who haven't used Delta Share before, or the concept of Delta Share, it's a secure way of sharing data between Databricks environments and non-Databricks environments securely without moving data in there as well. So what we use for the data lake-based access and combining with UC on the right-hand side to share that data across using Delta Share into a shared catalog that you can see on the left-hand side. For the relational stores, so Synapse dedicated pools, the Azure SQL marts, we decided to use Lakehouse Federation to do that. So Lakehouse Federation is a virtualization engine that allows you to connect to remote database stores and bring them into Databricks as a federated connection, and they're stored as a foreign catalog inside the primary Unity Catalog metastore. So data isn't moved, it's just kind of virtual pointer to there. What it allowed us to do is basically create the AWS metastore as our primary metastore for connection to the FDP, with a child metastore on the Azure side pinned together by Delta Share and Federation to bring those together. The benefit of that is allow the Palantir to connect through one single access point, go them through Unity Catalog on one access layer for auditing and traceability and so forth. So that's kind of the target architecture that we led to. And these last two slides very quickly before I hand over to Bianca. And then these are just more about the platforms themselves. So the CDP, like I said, Common Data Platform on AWS, mainly Databricks of different versions, data processing services, and secure research environments on that side. Then on the right-hand side, UDAL, Unified Data Access Layer. These are all in the public domain. You can Google these terms, nothing kind of secret squirrel around this. But again, Azure Databricks is the backbone on there. enabled by UC to make that kind of link across the two environments. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Bianca to talk around the actual delivery phases for the POC.
So this marks the beginning of the POC phases. For those of you that come from technical background or data engineering, this will be covered more in detail. Our approach was to split this into logical steps from cross-cloud integration to connecting to Palantir, but also to address the last-minute challenges and to design the final implementation of the project. Let's dive into each of them. First of one is the cross-cloud integration. One of the first challenges that we needed to address was to move data from UDAL to CDP. And this comes with a few challenges. This involves different data systems and data formats. Let's see how we have tackled that. First of all, the data was stored into Parquet files and at some point also in JSON. We needed to convert this into Delta. Why that? Because with Delta sharing, only Delta formats are being allowed. How we have achieved this? We have created external tables in UDAL. After that, we have done a deep clone and prepared the data as a managed table in UDAL to be able to connect onto the Delta share and share it across CDP. I want to talk more about the private exchange. My colleague already explained what is Delta share. I will not go again to that topic, but private exchange is quite a new and cool feature from Databricks. A private exchange in Databricks, it allows you to mark data products visible into the marketplace, and this will be visible to a specific group of users. It's still built on Delta share, so that means that your connection is still private and secure. But the main advantage is that your group of users will know about the data product, data sets that are available, can see details about it, and request access. Private exchange comes with a market interface, essentially, and it's much easier to control the access, request access. So it is easier compared with Delta share, where you will need to define every single recipient. The next one, as my colleague Mike said, was the Lakehouse Federation. We needed to integrate different data sources such as Synapse, SQL servers. The Lakehouse Federation allowed a virtual connection, a direct connection in Databricks, so no need to move the data. This is quite important as NHS is quite big. Different teams from researchers to data analysts that want just to explore the data before deciding to move the data across and start the process for machine learning. The most interesting thing, probably because the other ones I would say they were more straightforward, was connecting to Palantir. This came with its own challenge. At the time of the implementation, we only had one option. After that, the second one. I will go through all of them. So first of all, the SQL connector and the Databricks connector. Both options actually allowed connectivity to Unity Catalog, which was quite important because we still want to maintain governance. We don't want to compromise at all the governance. And we want low duplication. This is quite important to have near real-time analytics. Let's go to the options. Both of them used virtual tables. What is a virtual table? So this is a feature in Palantir. So it allows Foundry to bypass essentially the storage format underlying the source system. It's seeing the storage table essentially as native. Okay, so virtual table with S3 and Unity Catalog. At the beginning of the POC, this was the only option, and it required Iceberg format. This changed during the POC. However, for the Iceberg format, we needed to obtain this. We have obtained this by using the uniform format. It's a feature in Databricks. How we have done that? First, we needed to explore the existing of the tables, disable the Iceberg format, deep clone, and after that, enable back the Iceberg format. So essentially, we have done a duplication of the data so we can have it into the Iceberg format. Not ideal, okay? But this offered us a good connection to Palantir. So the data was available in Palantir within seconds, but this compromised the real real-time analytics because of the incremental load that we needed to have, also have pipelines to run. Positive performance, okay? The data was within seconds. Some will say that is good enough. However, there were a few last-minute changes that we needed to address. Let's go through them. So the Iceberg connection meant that we have data duplicated. The virtual tables, they were there, but we had the deep clone, which was required both in UDAL and CDP. On the good side is that Unity catalog was used, so governance was not compromised, was actually in place, and all the access granted as expected for the users. So a late addition, I will say, as we were approaching the end, Databricks connector was released. At that point was into beta. What this new connector means. So the Databricks connector allows direct connectivity to Databricks. No need to duplicate the data. It's using a SQL warehouse compute to connect to the data. So real-time analytics, essentially. We were just querying directly in Palantir from Databricks. I would like us to go again through the final solution architecture. We can see that we have cloned the data only once. This is work in progress. This will change for NHS. They are working on their own modernization of the infrastructure and trying to move across from having different formats such as Parquet and JSON. But for the moment, we have done, as I said, the deep clone. And we have used the private exchange on top of Delta Share to share the data between CDP and UDAL. The Lakehouse Federation to connect the other data sources such as SQL databases from Azure and Synapse as well. And in the end, to connect to Palantir, we have used the Databricks connector. Thank you.
Thank you. So just before going to moving forwards on our next steps, I'll go back a few slides. I should have put this in to the beginning, but I was going to show you where I finished previously. So just to kind of bring it home, what Bianca's just saying, what we ended up doing to make this work is that the federation piece worked a treat. It worked fantastic against those Azure SQL databases and then that virtual connection. And like we adopted there, with the uniform and Iceberg conversion, we had to kind of do the deep clone to convert it to Iceberg and then back again on the other side to allow it to work with Palantir. Because one thing we found with Palantir is that it had to see the physical files in place before we could query it. So I'd say when Bianca found the Databricks connector that came in right at the end, it simplified our architecture a lot more than it did. Otherwise, we're creating essentially copies of data on both sides just to facilitate a connection from Palantir. So it's a really significant moment, and that's kind of, when I touch on the reference architecture shortly, that's where we'll talk around there. But yeah, so as we said, it was a successful implementation of the POC. So moving forwards now, we're now into phase 2, which is our production rollout of this. And what we're doing now, we're expanding this to bring into what's called the data processing service into the platform, so into the CDP. So in the UK, the data processing service takes collections data from hospitals and from GPs and various other data sources, brings that into the NHS, and it's processed by various processes. It's a very complex, very large environment there as well. We don't want to migrate that into the virtual data lake. It's too large. So what we're going to use is another feature of Databricks called Hive Metastore Federation. So it works in a similar manner to Lakehouse Federation in the sense that an external Hive metastore can be mounted into a Unity Catalog metastore as a foreign catalog and then referenced in that way there as well. So we're literally going through that phase right now as part of our production rollout. And it's built upon our Databricks and Palantir reference architecture. So like I said, when we first started this, there was no partnership in place. It was kind of a potential compete between two organizations or a better together story between. So, customer first, we all work together to decide what is the best way of combining what we've done already that allow the FDP to be a success for the customer. So there's a session this afternoon. Some people may be seeing it already with Ben and Mood around the partnership, but essentially, the idea behind that is a much seamless integration layer between the two platforms, built upon the things we did in this POC with other projects with similar organizations like BP and others as well, and gives kind of greater access to data, unified governance, compute, and AI and workflows, which I'll come to. So at its core, again, a bit of a salesy slide, but I'll come to more technical architecture shortly. But the idea behind the whole thing is kind of simplifying that integration layer between the platforms. Before this integration existed, virtual tables and other things, it was a much harder, clunkier way of doing things instead. So again, faster project delivery, open architecture in terms of the APIs and the SDKs, the adoption of interoperable standards with Iceberg. So you'll see sessions around our Iceberg adoption with Databricks at Summit this time around, around managed Iceberg and federated Iceberg as well. Data sharing, so we talked around data virtualization with virtual tables, but also other concepts such as Spark, compute, pushdown, which is now out. The ability to choose no-code and pro-code. So for those who've used Palantir before, it's very no-code centric, very visual, very drag and drop with our ontology and things like that as well. And Databricks traditionally, and there may be some sessions this thing, they may change things a little bit, but traditionally is very pro-code centric, very code orientated, very developer orientated. So the ability to choose some best-in-class platforms is how you want to need it across both there as well. And ultimately, more efficient operations. The virtual tables that Bianca mentioned, they are indexed into the ontology inside Palantir. So the ontology is kind of a semantic representation of your organization. So the NHS, you can see a patient, you can see the appointments, the medications and various things. It links it all together in that kind of visual graph representation there. So these objects are indexed from the VDL inside Databricks. So 2 conceptual architecture slides. This is a very top level one. And these aren't kind of deep technical ones in terms, but the middle thing we talked around there, data federation today, so virtual tables allows that kind of virtual connection between the platforms. Unity Catalog works right now in terms of connectivity, and we talked around there where you can do a UC credential passing through into Databricks from Palantir. Support for vendor credentials is coming as well in that roadmap too for much more seamless integration, and again across the Iceberg integration, across the Iceberg catalogs. And the final thing, which is new, is compute federation, which is maybe shown on this slide there. So with Spark pushdown, so you can leverage the compute power of Databricks from Palantir using Spark Connect to push your compute into Databricks from Palantir and do that processing there as well. So again, on this slide, there's lots of kind of buzz terms around the different platforms and their tools. I won't try and show those off today, but the key thing is that middle layer there. And so Spark pushdown, compute federation, virtual tables, that seamless interoperability, and then that unified governance across UC and everything. So that kind of completes our talk for today. Any questions?